Okay, good morning, guys, and welcome to this block where we'll be learning in a big way. And Paul was explaining to you about the detailing and the nitty-gritty of how the learning will be. And he has mentioned a lot about it. I don't need any repetition. But to start with, I like to use one word: what is easy, what is difficult. Those who are regular, those who pay attention, everything is easy to them. And those who are not, everything will become difficult to them. Second, the books to be used. Guys, there are three kind of boxes. Paul has mentioned about blue box. You'll find these blue boxes in Moore's Anatomy, Clinical Anatomy. There are green boxes, you'll find them in Gray's Anatomy. And there are red boxes, you'll find in my PowerPoints. If you ignore these boxes, probably they will affect you. So you have to be very clear about these concepts. Now, MSK block is lab-based. Everything is related to the structures. So if you don't pay attention, if you're not engaged during a lab session, I told you in the beginning that your foundation block is a gallery walk. We are just giving you an overview. You're looking from a bird eye view. Let's say you are landing in Riyadh and you are just looking down how Riyadh look like from the top. That was it. Now you have entered in some kind of reality. So and that reality matters. And those of you who will not be engaged, they will be affected. My inbox is full of so many concerns. People are writing. I remember one like yesterday or day before yesterday. I'm struggling with time management. Help me. At this time, I cannot help you. Any important thing you concept to be done? No. Everything is important. Those who are connected to us, your seniors, they can tell you. It's basically, primarily, if you don't come up prepared within each session, you will not be able to cope up with the things. And we float an idea. This idea is being taught in different ways during the week. From the lecture, within the lab sessions, and then other activities, and it ends by the TPL, which gives you some kind of activity, but we cannot cover each and everything. TPL is not a quiz. So we engage you in different facets. And one more important part, I don't think Paul has talked about it, that was one of our very famous activity, and MSK block is one of those blocks which has been ever remembered by our med students. If you ask your seniors, they will tell you stories about that. There are reasons for that. We all put efforts, only not we, students as well. So that evening lab was very helpful, and there we are having peer tutors. And these peer tutors were really helping because your own colleagues, they were selected and they were helping you. Now with this pandemic and all those things, we have little bit issues, but we have found a solution and we are working on that. We have already selected peer tutors from within your batch. People have been selected. They are just in a process of formalization. These people will try, they should be present in each of your lab group. Those people, they will be visiting our labs face to face. Not many, very few people. And these people will be visiting. The girls will be on Tuesday and boys will be on Monday, on Sunday. And there I'll be helping them. I'll be making them understand each structure. And it's all cadaver based. They will be exposed, they will be shown. And those who will be shortly, people will be receiving an email that you are selected to be an evening lab tutor. If you think you can do it, you are welcome. It's just 2-hour activity, 7 to 9. For boys, Sunday. For girls, Tuesday. So once they accept it, then they will be trained and they will be helpful for themselves and they will be helpful for their colleagues. So those will be peer tutors. And remember, those who will be selected as peer tutors, it's not that they will stay peer tutor for rest of their life. We can change people. We have to accommodate. There are so many people who wanted to come. What is the criteria? That's a big story. I don't want to get in that. We have already taken, because you were being observed right from when you have entered into Al Faisal website, and your every activity was monitored. And then we have certain criteria. On that basis, the people have already been selected. Okay, so now those peer tutors are really a great help. And please, one request, utilize every resource. Spend time in learning the material. You know, in foundation, we were following that. A folder appears, weekends, before weekend begins, a folder have all the resources. Like today, you'll find one piece of paper where you'll be provided different links. These are YouTube links, but these are small video clips. They are not very long, and they will help you to understand your labs which are coming tomorrow and day after tomorrow. So just go on that, visit, just watch those video links. They will be helpful, and other material. For any concern related to your learning, please feel free to write me. Those who are writing me, they can see that whenever I see their email, no matter it's day or night, I answer them. Appropriate. So I know, I remember one person I don't answer. There are reasons for that. Why I didn't answer, I don't want to go in that detail. It's written nicely, you'll get a nice answer. If it's not, I'm sorry. Next, and for your lab related question, if there is any, please write it to Ayman, and then because we cannot take random questions like whole class is talking at that structure of the week session. At that time it's not possible. So we can pick from the question whatsoever you have sent, and then from those questions we can select which are the more appropriate questions which can be discussed about, and we can spend time on those. On Thursdays, it's a regular activity. It's a new activity. It was not there before because this is due to the COVID situation and all that. Furthermore, I think I talked about, maybe there is something whenever it will be reminded, but please be very clear. Shortly, we will be helping you how to score, how to handle best, how to get A in your MSK. What strategies you should apply in your understanding and learning, and I'm sure that will help you in a big way. Time management, I understand, is a big issue, and you have to be very clear. The books, the resource material, please not only rely on PowerPoints. PowerPoint plus your books. And you should be smart enough, you're adults, smart enough to pick out what is useful for you. And do the things on daily basis. If you leave it for tomorrow and day after tomorrow, it's not on. I hope I'm clear to all of you. Now, to start with, because I have limited time, so you're looking at a person. What do you think out of this picture? Quickly. So he is in pain, but because you can see that, and it looks like he's a young person, a football player who had some injury. So what do you do with him? Let's say you are the doctor who's treating him. How you will handle this person? Okay, where is the pain? The person is crying in pain, and he's really he's putting his hand on his shoulder, let's say, and crying and yelling and blah blah blah, accompanied by 2-3 people, and you are the only physician available to him. Now, how you will handle with this person? Guys, if you give a wrong answer, it will not do any harm to me. It will not kill anybody. So answer is needed. Nobody will bully you for your wrong answer. Be rest assured in my session. Nobody will bully you. Yes, what do you think? What should be done for him? In the first place, a common sense, even in your home, ice pack. Every home, every place has an ice. You don't have any medicine, you don't have any tab, you don't have any injection, put some ice. First thing is pain relief. Then talk. Then you have time. Now you can look for what you have and what not. Make sense? So a doctor should be somebody who has some human touch. After that, when pain is being settled, then you go for an X-ray. An X-ray will tell you many things. I hope this is bothering you probably. Is it fine? So this X-ray is showing you some of the findings here. Okay, so now today we'll be talking about the shoulder region, and there we'll be discussing about the things, the structures which are connected and related here. Are we good? So now these are my objectives. I don't want to read them. They are already, this lecture is already visible in your on the Moodle. There's a folder, anatomy, and in that folder, if you go in, this lecture is already there. So these are my objectives. And now, everything begins with what? Our life begins with what? Our life begins with what? From our development. And we should know. I'm not teaching development. Paul will be talking about that. But just a quick thing. You know, a few of my slides, just look in them. And so many slides, read them. So this is a slide, look in that. What you need to look in that, 4th week is a time where limb starts emerging. So before understanding what the limbs are, what is upper limb and what is lower limb, we should know from where it is coming. So 4th week is the critical time. And what happens there? Limb development begins. How? You know who's this person. It can be anybody, you, me, and anybody. And then we have somites. And then we have certain regions. And limb bud is emerging. And these are the segments from where we have the limb bud which is emerging. Guys, excuse me. So, this limb bud starts emerging. You can see that upper limb and lower limb, they are coming up. And now what happens? It grows big. And then there are certain modifications which are occurring. Certain structures start emerging within the time. So the story begins at 4th week of our intrauterine life. We all been through this process. So structures have been changing. We are determined with pre-axial and post-axial. I'm going fast on this slide because this concept, then you'll find a full-fledged lecture by Paul on the same concept. Why I'm bringing it here? Just to give you an idea that how things begin. So now this can be my upper limb, this can be my lower limb. We have, if it's upper limb, these are the arrangements. And if it's lower limb, these are the arrangements. Are we good with that? Going further, it modifies. We have a hand or we have a foot. Do you agree? And this is how the growth continues. Forearm. So now these are the bones in the arm and the forearm. One situation when we are talking about upper limb. And this is the lower limb. Now something is changing. Some rotation is occurring. You will understand that. This is really important. And this rotation, this is the organization of this rotation. That's why our upper limb, there is a pre-axial, post-axial border. We talk about anatomical position, and that's important to understand. So these two slides, just look in them. This will help you to keep going with the process. So now, in upper limb, rotation that is laterally, and there is medially. So these rotations are occurring. Okay. Now I hope everybody understand the terms of the movements. We spend good time in learning those movements during our foundation block. Am I right? We talk about what is this movement you're looking at. So this is extension. Don't think abduction because we talk about planes. This is this. What's that? What's this? Yeah, now you're right. Are we good now? So before starting the limb, you need to understand.
Is this outside the PowerPoint?
It is inside the PowerPoint. What do you want?
People can't see it anymore. I just want to make sure.
Okay guys, so we are good with this, am I right? Everybody can see that? So these are the different things which we need to understand for understanding upper limb. And who's bringing it? That we need to learn. How I'm able to bring flexion, how I'm able to bring extension, how I'm able to bring abduction, adduction, circumduction, and everything, lateral rotation and medial rotation. That we need to be clear about. So with this, when we look at a human body, under the skin, what do we have? We have these bones which are visible to you from the front and from the back. We name these bones differently. And then when we go down, when we remove the skin, we can see under the fascias, we can see these muscles. I'm showing you from the back. And this is how learning goes layer by layer. Everything is being layered. Are we good? Now, let's start talking about the first bone called clavicle. It's a modified long bone. We talk about it. It lies horizontally in your body. Guys, learning anatomy. Try to feel everything in your own body. I know you cannot feel your heart, but you can listen to it. You cannot touch your brain, you know where it is. But so many things, at least MSK, you can touch and feel everything, almost. And if you are in doubts, visit our labs. We have everything. We'll see, and I hope and I wish and pray that this pandemic is over and then you can have all face to face. So now we're looking at this clavicle. There are too many, guys. When we talk of this subject, there are millions of details. You're not expected to get into too many details. We are focused on the functional part. Otherwise, if we talk classical anatomy, probably we need 3 years to finish upper limb, but we don't have that much time. We have to finish it in upper limb in 3 weeks. For lower limb, 2 weeks. For skin, 1 week. That's it. 7 weeks is the review week, and then you have your exam. So try to be very much focused. You know, you use a word zibda. So you have to get the zibda out of it. And you should be focused about that thing. So now, talking about clavicle. So now, this is what? The posterior border. Posterior aspect, and it should be anterior. Because with posterior goes anterior. With superior goes inferior. So now, this is the body, shaft, and then it has 2 ends. One end meet with my sternum. The other end meet with my acromial process of my scapula. So we call it, the end which goes to the sternum is called sternal end, and the end which goes to the acromial process is called acromial end. Guys, it's not rocket science. Everything is being given. And if you open your block book, somebody was asking, I saw in Paul's session, that where I can find this block book. When you open up on Moodle, there is first thing which is in the block, it's block book, and go to the last pages. There is a glossary we have inserted. This is first time. And the Latin word, Greek word, and what are their counterparts. So this will help you to understand what is the meaning of this word and that word. It's a small 4 pages, I think. So these 2 ends we should be able to recognize. And when you go to the lab, your job is not just to talk about and chat around. Fine, it's okay. But you will be given these bones. You will be given these models. So just spend time and identifying structures. If you are able to do good, I don't think you will be struggling anyway, anyhow. So now, the shaft we were talking about, and this end, now we are covering it. And that is the end which goes to the sternum. So that is an articulating surface. We all know an articulating surface is lined by a cartilage. Why we need a cartilage? To smooth, to minimize the friction. Because we never hear any sound when we move our limbs, do we? We don't need to lubricate. We don't need to go to fuel station, gas station, and ask somebody to refuel us. No, we have a natural system. So now this is the facet for articulation there, and then that is on the other side. So one is for the sternum, and other one is for the acromial process. Guys, are we good? Tell me if I'm going so fast. And now there are certain surface modifications. But where are these surface modifications? You can see here. You can see here. These modifications we talk about in foundation, and so many people were asking me about this. Do we need to learn this? Do we need to learn that? It was with the heading of bone markings. And you were told, because different muscles and ligaments are attached here. And due to, if you are more muscular, these prominents will become, these surfaces, these parts will become more prominent. And if you are not, if you are spending whole of your day and night just sitting with your Xbox or Switch or anything, then probably you will not be having. But if you are muscular, you'll be having these processes very prominent. So let's label it. So these are the different ligaments. They are attached to these parts. Are we good with that? So these are the surface modification. There are lines, there are tubercles, there are processes and all that. Now, why we are spending time with this clavicle? Because it has functional value. Now this red line is the place, the weakest part of this bone. This bone can be fractured anywhere. But the weakest part is that if I take 10,000 cases of fractured clavicle, the most common site, the highest frequency will be seen at this level where my 2/3 and 1/3 meet. Medial 2/3 and lateral 1/3, the place where they meet, this is one of the commonest site of the fracture of the clavicle bone. Clavicle is also called collarbone. This is another site. So these fractures are important and we need to understand. My story begins with that. So what are you looking here in this X-ray? Patient will not come to you, doctor, I have fractured my clavicle. Patient will come to you with a story, I fell down when I was playing, when I was riding my bicycle, when I had an accident. And I have severe pain, help me doc. And now you are the one who's supposed to help him. After assuring everything, now you reach to this conclusion, and once you do the X-ray, X-ray is not the first thing to be done. So now this shows you something very, very clear in this image. And it is expected from you, you should be able to read X-rays. Not as a radiologist, but you should have some idea. I can see there is a bone fracture. Which bone? Clavicle. We don't expect which grade of fracture, no. You are just beginners. So now, this is another image. What do you see here now? Say, guys, you can see that there's a fracture and two fragments, but why they are up and down? Can you tell me the reason for that? That we need to understand. That's the main philosophy. That what is the mechanism, what brings these bones, one is going up and one is going down. That we need to understand. You know, a layman, if you bring somebody from a street, a cleaner can say, yes, this is a bone fracture. But you being as a doctor, you should be able to understand what causes this, what happened. Fine, trauma, you fell, all that happened. Excuse me, ladies. Hello. You're not following the social distancing. You're sitting close to each other. And now you're talking. That bothers me a lot. One of you have to move. I don't know who should. Okay, now you're looking in this X-ray. What are you looking at? So you're looking at different type of fractures of the clavicle bone. Are we good? That we need to understand. You will be given X-rays in your exams, and you will not give you the diagnosis. And you will be asked, mention the anatomical changes visible in this given image, given X-ray. Then you need to say that, yes, I can see there's a fracture in a bone called clavicle. Are we good? Thank you. So these are the different views, and these are the different labels of the same fracture of clavicle. We are fine, I hope. And guys, you spend more time, you do more practice, you'll be better off. Now the same story, this guy came, you put ice, then what you did? Then you are asking him, once the pain is gone, what happened? Then he's telling you the story. I fell down. Either he fell down on his hand, outstretched hand, or he fell on his shoulder, or he fell on his elbow. So there are different ways. I'm not going in detail. But you need to know the mechanism, that what happened. Because I have to reach to the conclusion. And it is not possible without knowing it. It's not like you're sitting in the classroom and suddenly you broke your clavicle. No. There should be some factor behind. Then I'll go for an X-ray. When I did the X-ray, I noticed what? One fragment of the bone is going up and the other fragment of the bone is going down. Now as a doctor, as a physician, I need to explain this. What happens? Why this fragment is going up and why this fragment is going down. Up till this time, a technician can say this is a fracture. But you being as a doctor, how you tell this? So you need to understand this image. We know certain muscles are attached on the clavicle, on this part, and certain muscles are attached on this part. And that explains, and you're looking at those muscles here. And those muscles, their pull, their stretch, their gravity, so many factors. They play a role. and that is response. That's why the shoulder of this person, when this person will appear to you, it's dropping down. You can see something elevated. Even on the gross appearances, you will find a lot. Now, these are those mechanisms. So there are certain muscles. We'll be talking right now. I didn't talk about these muscles, so probably it's new to you. But you can see that there are different ways, different muscles, their contraction and their loss of function. These bones, they were connected at this place. Now, once this connection is gone, now this muscle, who's that muscle? Sternocleidomastoid, a muscle which is attached to my sternum, attached to my clavicle, and attached to my mastoid process. So I call it sternocleidomastoid. You remember I gave you a small in foundation that we name muscle on the basis of their different attachments. So that's an example of that. So that muscle now this end is free. It can be pulled up. Now this muscle on the back, we call it, what's that muscle? Trapezius. So it is also pulling up because these two ends are free. But I have the gravity, weight of my hand. So this fragment is going down because of the gravity. The weight of my whole upper limb. So now this fragment will be visible on my X-ray going down, and this fragment is going up. And now my hand will be more close to my body. Reason? Now the structure which was keeping everything in its place, it's broken. So my hand will go so more close to my body, and the factor responsible, the muscle which are attaching my upper limb with my trunk. So you can see that pectoralis major muscle is playing a part. There are so many other muscles. So this is what we need to understand. And if we don't, guys, those who took our exams, we never designed to fail you. We focus more on functions and loss of innervation. If this is the situation, which muscle is damaged? If this is happening, which muscle is responsible? And if this is not happening, which muscle is not responding? And this muscle is not responding because which nerve is gone? That we need to understand. This is not a rocket science. Trust me, you sit down, you put a little bit practice, you are good. And we are here to help you. We are not here to penalize you, that why you have come to Al-Faisal. No. We are always we are ready to help and assist you. Ask your seniors, they will tell you. Anybody have ever asked for any help and we said no to him or her? Never. Okay. So now, let's talk about scapulae. Now, when you look at a scapular bone, how it looks to you? What this shape, how it looks to you? Triangle, excellent. Perfect. You guys are smart. So I need not explain triangle because from your early days of your life, from your grade 1 onward, you know about triangle, Muthallas. Everybody knows about it. So now we can see that there are two surfaces. One is facing you and one is facing on your back. So we call it anterior surface, it's written there. We call it posterior surface or posterior view or anterior view. And then we can name it costal surface and dorsal surface, more you want to make it fancy and fancier, you can. But the basic thing is, this is how it looks at you and this is how it looks from the back. And that's why please try to visualize everything on your own body. And if you can do that, you are the best. Nobody can beat you ever. Maybe somebody wakes you in the middle of the night, asks you one thing and asks you to go sleep, you can answer right. But if you don't know it, I'm sorry. So let's label it fast. So this is what? This border should be what? Superior border. Obviously, this is a border. Then these are the angles. There's a notch. A notch in the superior border. What name should be given? Suprascapular notch. Make sense? I didn't bring any name from my home, and not from your home. Suprascapular notch. A notch in the superior border of the scapula. Then inferior angle. Everything should be clear to you. This is looking away from me, so that should be away from me or towards me? Away, lateral border, perfect. And then this angle is modified to accommodate the head of the humerus bone. So this is the glenoid cavity, glenoid fossa. Above to this glenoid cavity or glenoid fossa, I have a tubercle. It's below, so I call it infraglenoid tubercle. So then I'll be having a supraglenoid tubercle. If there was only one, I was saying it glenoid tubercle. But I have two, one is above to this glenoid, one is below to this glenoid. So I gave it a name for identification, supraglenoid and infraglenoid. Are we good? Now these are for the vessels, and this is my medial body. Are we good so far? Anything which bothers you here, guys? Guys, my session, one thing is very important, is purely interactive. And if you think you watch it later and then you will understand, I feel sorry. So if you're not physically, mentally present in my sessions, then you will be struggling. And don't leave it, oh, at the end I will do it. No. Right? So now this is what a very prominent feature on the posterior view, and that is called spine. It doesn't look to me a spine, but we call it a spine. And then because of the spine, my posterior view is divided into two. One is above, number one, supra spine, supraspinatus. It's a fossa, it's a dip. Supraspinous fossa, and then vice versa, infraspinous fossa. There is no rocket science here. Are we clear? Now, this is on the subscapular side. So this number 3 is subscapular fossa. Subscapularis muscle here, and it goes close to my ribs. And then I have coracoid process. It looks like beak of a crow, warab. Crow, coracoid. Are we good? And then this is my acromion process. So the part of the clavicle which goes here was given the name of acromial end of the clavicle. And then we have, this is the neck, and that's it. Are we good so far? Anything which bothers you here, guys? Please spend time on that. Now, we are looking at someone from his back. So what do we expect here? We need to know there are some bone, and we talk about it. It's bone shortly, scapulae. You can see that. You can see the humerus. And then you can see these lines, these brown lines which are going. So they are indicative of some muscles. And then if I explore further, when I remove skin, I can see there are so many muscles present here. And that we need to learn about. And that we need to be focused about. So now, my and your upper limb is connected with my and your body by a group of muscles. Muscles who are connecting my body from my back. The group of muscles who are connecting my upper limb with my body from the front. The muscle who are connecting with the chest wall, the middle chest wall. So there are so many group of muscles. So now let's explore from the back. So what are those muscles which are present in my back when I remove the skin, under the skin? So these muscles are so many. So how I can learn them? So I just categorize it as a superficial layer and a deep layer. So on this image, on this sketch of mine, I will draw muscles on one side, superficial muscles, and on the other side, the deep muscles. So just stay connected. But before that, we need to label this, and we need to be clear about that what are we looking at in this sketch. So now, one end is showing you the superficial, another one is showing you the deep part. So now the first muscle, before going to that, let me go through. This is my vertebral column. Are we good? This is my skull, and this is my scapulae on both the sides. These are my humerus bones. Are we fine with this? And now I mention a name here, trapezius muscle. You know, so many names on the basis of geometrical thing. So this muscle, trapezius, and then these are the features. Can you see that? A line is coming up. And we call it, it's a ligament. It's attached to a line. The line is nuchal line. So it's coming from that, on that basis we call it ligamentum nuchae. Now, this is my muscle. It's a diamond shape, but you're looking at one triangle. If I put the other half on the opposite side, it will complete my whole triangle. Are we good? So this is my trapezius muscle. Now trapezius muscle has three parts. First of all, we should see that where it is attached. Guys, we are not bothered with origin insertions. We prefer you to spend time in learning proximal attachments and distal attachments. Please spend time on that. Don't waste your time in memorizing origins and insertions. When you open up your book, no matter Moore or Grace or anybody, They spend million of pages, million of words going for this. We don't need that. We only focus for functional part. For last many years, students, this is the number one asked question. Do we need to learn origin insertion? And my answer is always no. And this is no again. We don't ask you origin insertion. We ask you proximal distal attachments. We may ask you. So now trapezius. So what it does? It is designed to move my scapula. And I have two scapula, definitely. Sometimes people are asking, do we have this muscle on right side or left side? Guys, we have on both the sides. My job is to help you and to clear your thing. Guys, asking a low question I don't mind for that. But staying, that's the problem. So ask everything so that you can clear up. It's worth mentioning, I remember somebody, she, like the whole year, she filled my inbox. And sometimes it was annoying a bit, but I said, okay, fine. But when result came, she still maintains 4 GP. So I'm happy that I helped somebody, and if that person goes with 4 GPA till her final, I achieved something. Got it? So asking, don't delay for that. Okay, so it moves the scapulae. So now I told you this muscle has 3 components. The part which is going upwards. So these are, guys, in my slides, there is some kind of organization. Anything which comes with blue is action. Anything comes with red is clinical correlation. So please don't ignore these blue words and those red boxes. And the nerve supply comes accordingly. So these are the 3 most important components. If you ignore them, then you're in a trouble. So superior fibers, what it says, elevates and laterally rotate the scapula. So scapula can move like this. So it lifts it up and laterally rotates it. So this is the job of my upper fibers. And now, within the picture it's been highlighted, the middle fibers, what are they doing? They're bringing 2 scapulae towards each other. So middle fibers retract. Retract means if I have sent something forward, I'm taking it back. I'm retrieving. This model of, let's say, iPhone 12 has emerged. There is some big glitch. So company is retaking, withdrawing the model. So this is retraction. So middle fiber retracts. And then these lower fibers, what do you think? What they are doing? They depress and medially rotate the scapula. So everyone is doing what for scapula? One is lifting, one is depressing, one is retracting. And whose that muscle is? Trapezius. So now, if I want to check if my trapezius is not working, who is responsible? Either trapezius is damaged or there is the one who controls my trapezius, the power supply for that, it's a nerve. It should be a nerve, a motor nerve. And then for trapezius, I'm getting a nerve, that's not a spinal nerve, that's a cranial nerve. It's coming from my brain directly. And that's my 11th cranial nerve. It's called accessory nerve. So that is the one which controls my trapezius. If someone has damaged for any reason, if there is a damage to this 11th nerve, I cannot retract my scapulae, I cannot do this, shrugging of my shoulders. So the actions at scapulae will be lost. It's due to what? Loss of the power supply of that muscle. Who's that muscle? Is trapezius. So you have to connect, you have to cue your concept like that. Then I don't see, if you write an MCQ for you, so and so, every MCQ start with a 29-year-old male or female presented in ER with a history of fall and unable to lift his arm, blah, blah, and examination revealed. So which of the following nerve is being damaged? So now if you know that 11th cranial nerve is responsible for shrugging and doing this and that, you can answer this question. And otherwise, what the hell, from where this question has come? Paul has said to you, he will give you 100 questions, fine. He may give you 2 million questions, but if you don't have a concept, you cannot connect the dots. Okay, so now this is in detail, the full action of this muscle. You can read this blue box. And now this, what I told you, the red box. That's important. And that we need to know. So spinal accessory nerve, shrugging of the shoulder. How I check? I don't ask somebody to take off your shirt and blah, blah, blah things. I can just ask the person do that. Can you shrug your shoulder? If somebody is able to, you can do that. If you shrug, can you do that? Do it for me. You can shrug your shoulder. It means your 11th nerve is fine. Your trapezius is fine. That's it. I don't need one lab and so many things. Are we clear? So now, another muscle. That's a deep muscle. So it's coming on. So this muscle was shown on the superficial, under the heading of superficial. Now under the heading of the deep groups. So levator scapulae, a muscle whose job is to lift the scapula. The name says levator scapulae. So function has been explained. So that's my levator scapulae. Is been attached to my cervical vertebrae, and this is attached to an area across the medial border of my scapula, above to the base of the spine. Where is the base of the spine? This is the root or base of the spine, and this is the upper border. Medial, this is the medial border, its upper part. And there I have different other muscles. Are we good? So now this muscle elevates the scapula, and you can read in between that. So that, guys, you can see that in this slide, certain things are blue, certain things are red. So now you should know how to pay attention to each and every concept. And then its nerve supply, that's important. So we didn't talk about brachial plexus yet. So I know it's too much load on you, but be rest assured, next week we'll be talking in detail about brachial plexus and its different things. And then it'll be more connected to the dots. So this is a point where every year so many people are asking me this question, and I have answered. So I just think let you come to that point, so then I can answer you. Not today, after my third lecture, I can answer you this question, which emerged from this. I know that. Now we talk about on the back, one superficial muscle, one deep muscle. Are we good? Let's go further. There's a triangular thing which emerged at the bottom, and that is a gray stuff, something gray. This is a fascia. This is not a muscle. It's in the region of, we give it a name, and the name is, I didn't put it here because it's such a low line. It is a thoracolumbar fascia. It's not visible on the screen, but on the digital screen it's there. So it is a thoracolumbar fascia, and now I have a huge muscle. This is on which side? Superficial side or deep side? Superficial side. So that is also superficial. This huge muscle, this muscle, it is connected almost all the back. We call it latissimus dorsi. Another name of this muscle is swimmer's muscle. When you swim, when you just doing this, you're using your boats and all that, so you will be developing it a lot. You have something? Camera has a problem?
No.
Thank you. So this muscle is latissimus dorsi, and this muscle, what it does, you can see that it's attachment. It's attached to my hip bone. It's attached. It's coming from this thoracolumbar fascia. It's attached through this thoracolumbar fascia. Is attached to these vertebrae. We don't use the word vertebrae very commonly. We call it spine. Spine means vertebrae. In clinics, they use spine, spinal surgeon. It's not a surgeon of a spine. Is a person who deals with the problem with the vertebral column. So you can see that a wide attachment, and then it narrows down, is touching on the inferior border of the scapulae, and then it's going where? It's going to my humerus. This huge muscle, it converges. The fasciculi, they converge, and then it's all going upwards to be attached on the humerus. So this muscle, when we do rowing, I hope people understand what is rowing. Those who are involved in, the boat and all that stuff, water sports, they understand what is rowing and all that. So this muscle is very developed. You know, if you look at somebody body shape, it makes a V. This is one of the factor for giving a good V if you do more workouts and everything. So this lets Miss Dorsey, you can see that its attachments and its nerve supply, thoracodorsal nerve, and these are the actions, huge actions. And guys, every muscle is bringing so many actions. If you remember when we were talking about classification of muscle, we talk about prime movers, agonists. So there are certain prime actions, there are certain associated actions. So everything which is underlined, that is more. So it's a powerful medial rotator and adductor and extensors. With reference to which joint, that we should say. Don't say extensor. Extensor of what? Elbow, knee, foot, ankle. I need to be clear about. Your communication should be clear about everything, every concept. Okay, there is some green thing. Can you see that? You know, when you're doctor, when you have a problem in your chest, when you have some cough, doctor put his or her stethoscope on your back and ask you to say, and you know, or you ask you to cough. Basically, this is a window. At this place, there is no muscle. So this is called triangle. It's like a triangle. So we call it triangle of auscultation. So this is the place, if you put your stethoscope, the piece of stethoscope, you are directly listening to the inside of the chest cave. This is not a hole. Be reminded. This is a place where you can have more audibility, more clearer sound, a good access. Now, on the deep side, we have tiny muscles. It's like a rhomboid. It's a small one. We call it rhomboids minor, and then we have rhomboids major. They are on the deeper side. And then these muscles, this is their action. They are also helping in retracting of scapula, but the prime retraction was trapezius. Now, let's recap the superficial muscles. We can see what? Latissimus dorsi and trapezius. The deep ones, we can see a lot. We can see levator scapulae, we can see rhomboids minor, we can see rhomboids major, and we can see some more muscles. We'll be learning them shortly today. Now, this is their schematic version. So that explains how these muscles are attached, how they are connecting my upper limb to my posterior chest wall. Are we clear so far? Okay, guys. Now we are approaching somebody from his front, how things are arranged from the front. So this is anterior chest wall, these are the bones, and these are the muscles. Not many muscles are here. Okay, let's explore it. So now you're looking at these muscles, these bony landmarks. I'm sure everybody is clear. Let me go fast on that. We'll be talking about pectoralis major. Before that, you can see these are the ribs. This is sternum, this is clavicle, this is the acromion process of the scapula, this is the humerus, and this is the shoulder. So now, a muscle which is coming from the clavicle, and then it's coming from the sternum and the ribs. Together, make one muscle. Like a triangle, converge, twist, to be attached on the humerus, upper end of the humerus. This muscle is known as pectoralis major. People show their chest. This is pectoralis major. People do their workouts, this become prominent, and people actually show you they are wearing this and that. So this is pectoralis major, a major muscle. And then this muscle, these are its attachments. Lateral and medial pectoral nerve, easy to remember. Lateral and medial pectoral nerves, and these are the actions. Flexors, medially rotates, very strong adductor. So this, what is underlined, is a must know information. What I don't say what is the next, don't look into that, you should, but don't forget these. This is in reality, the real picture. Skin has removed and you're looking someone's chest and where pectoralis major is shown fully. What's wrong? Can you see something here? There is no pectoralis major, so somebody may not have a pectoralis major. So effect will be what? Weaker function. So this is possibility. These are anomalies. Now coming back, we are set with this image. Now this muscle coming from these ribs, coming like serrations. Can you see it is serrated? like your comb, serrated, serratus anterior. I have so many serratus, but right now I'll be talking about serratus anterior. And what this muscle does for me, if I'm short in height and I want to approach to someone, so it increases the length of my hand. I cannot ring the bell. So my length of my hand, if it is increased, because my scapula has been brought forward, that's why my approach has been increased. And this is because of this muscle called serratus anterior. Are we good? So this serratus anterior, it does primarily what? Protrude the scapula. So it increases your approach of the hand. And this muscle, a very important nerve supplies it, and that is the long thoracic nerve. And if a problem occurs, but before that, I'm showing you another muscle which is lying above in the anterior chest wall, under the pectoralis major. This is pectoralis minor. It's a minor. Coming from the rib 2, 3, and 4, and going to where? To the tip of the coracoid process. Are we good? And then there are other muscles, but I'm talking about very important and relevant muscles. So the nerve supply, I'm writing lateral and medial pectoral nerves. In your books, you may find only medial pectoral nerve. It's okay. Different books talk different language. Don't get into controversies. And when people write me this question, that tells me very clearly that this student was physically there in the session or not. Or someone has turned on and he was sleeping, then it's a different story. So these are the actions. Now, this muscle is problematic. So now what are you looking at here? Somebody's back is standing quiet. I can see his scapulas are prominent to me. What happened? Something wrong? Guys, can you see something wrong happens? Here. So this is something like a wing, more prominent. There you go. This we call it as winging of scapula. When you apply pressure, this muscle, serratus anterior, was the one which keeps this scapula adhered to my body wall. Now this muscle is not functioning. Why it's not functioning? Because the nerve who controls this muscle is not working. So now this muscle is not doing its job. So it becomes prominent. When I'm applying pressure, you can compare it. When this person was standing quiet, nothing was obvious. But once he's forcing against the wall, this muscle becomes prominent, and that's called winging of scapula. And that is because of damage to serratus anterior or damage to long thoracic nerve. Now, this is the schematic and the real presentation of the same muscle. And now, what are we looking at? We are looking at the pectoralis major, pectoralis minor, and their schematic attachment on the chest wall. So these are the muscles who connect my upper limb with the anterior chest wall. Now, intrinsic muscles. Intrinsic muscles are many. Guys, these muscles are important. They are called rotator cuff muscles. And then, this is the joint capsule. And now, a muscle coming above to the spine, supraspinatus fossa. So we call it supraspinatus muscle. Guys, this supraspinatus muscle is very, very important. People having pain in their shoulder, one of the major causes connected to this muscle. And it's one of our very favorite muscle. I think for last many years, I don't see any MSK exam who don't talk about supraspinatus muscle. So if you don't know about it, you are affected in a big way. Serratus anterior and the supraspinatus muscle. Everyone's favorite. So then, this is the supraspinatus, and what it does, its action is being given. What it does, initiation of my abduction, first 15 or 20 degree, if I have to do an abduction, the initiation is by supraspinatus. Up till 90 degree deltoid. Above to that, I have role of levator scapulae trapezius. So abduction is not by one muscle. The prime abductor is deltoid. But the beginning part, the starting part, is done by supraspinatus. And if someone supraspinatus is not functioning, but you know what he'll do? He'll do like this, or he assists his hand and then he can do, because deltoid is functioning. Okay. But supraspinatus is not. And that you need to understand. So injury here, there are bursas, there are so many things that I'll be talking tomorrow in more details about that. This is infraspinatus. You can see its attachment and where it goes. They all are going to one common place on the tubercle, greater tubercle, which is present where? At the upper end of the humerus bone. Teres minor. And from the inner side, subscapularis. Guys, can you see that a pattern is being formed? SITS, sits. These muscles, these sits muscles are rotator cuff muscles. And they are one of the prime stabilizers of my shoulder joint. And if there is a problem with these muscles, it will affect badly my shoulder movements, pain, and so many things. And supraspinatus is the chief muscle here. If there is a problem with that, it causes disaster. So this sits thing. So these are the actions, all of them. These are their nerve supplies, and this sits really important. We need to spend time with the sits. Look at it, SITS. So this is how they are attached. Just imagine your hand, put on the head of the humerus, and you can learn everything. You can see these muscles. Don't forget supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor. Teres major is not component of sits. Please be clear. And then subscapularis, which is represented by thumb. Are we good with this? Guys, I have 2-3 more slides to go, but as a policy, I never rush in. I stop here. So I'm open to your questions, if any.
I was asked about this happening, that image when it's, is it because trapezius muscle?
Which image?
The one when it's pushed the wall.
You know, I have a suggestion for you. Select that image, write a question on that, send it to me, and in my next session tomorrow, inshallah, at 9, I'll be talking about that. Okay, so then people will see that what is your question and then what is my answer. Because right now, the question which you have said, even your neighbors don't know. And those who are listening to us, they don't know what the question was. And if I start saying something, then people will live with. Maybe so many have the similar question. So guys, I can stop here. I'm open to your questions, open to your suggestions. See you tomorrow, inshallah. I'll take, any question, if there is any, please write to me so I can come ready with the answers for tomorrow's part. Bye-bye. You're welcome.